We're standing by. We're live. Okay. Good morning. I will call this meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Park Commissioners together. And I want to say it's a beautiful day to be in Eden Park. It's a beautiful day to be in Eden Park any day. But I want to welcome all. We are in full membership present today, our entire board, again after the summer. So welcome back, everyone, and thank you for being here. I want to start today first, though, by recognizing the man to my right who is sitting in the director's seat, and welcome Mr. Jason Barron to his first meeting as our new leader of Cincinnati Parks. We are very happy to have you here, but I also want to again thank the person next to him and Steve Pasella for your excellent work in helping us bridge the time where we were looking at an interim director's position. So thank you so much for what you've done, and we're very happy to have and thrilled to have Steve through the end of the year, helping us and assisting through this transition period. So Steve, thank you for being here. Great. And I will say we have no guest speakers today. We have one who is actually on the agenda, so we don't need to call him specifically, but we have no public speakers. I do want to give an update that we have, as commissioners, all received some correspondence by email or in the post office. We've had this month a request pertaining to Mount Auburn Park. We've had correspondence concerning unleashed dogs in our parks, one specifically in Alt Park, but we've heard the same issue in other parks as well. We've had a request for specific upgrades and recommendations of how we can spend some money in Miles Edwards Park, and pertaining to potential update of playground and potentially a running loop in the Miles Edwards Park. We've had emails concerning ATVs that have been off-road in some of our parks, which is a concern of ours that we are aware of as well. And we've had a correspondence from residents near Alms Park wanting us to be aware that they have a beloved 7-year-old buck deer whose name is Bucky, and asking us, as we have done in the past, to, as we move into a period where there is registered bow hunting in some of our parks, to please make some of the hunters aware of Bucky and to keep an eye out for him. We've also heard correspondence from people regarding our planned dog park in Burnett Woods. We've had a few correspondence on that. We've had correspondence regarding the statue that was stolen out of Eden Park, and supporting the potential move of that sculpture if we have a replacement, supporting the potential move to Sawyer Point. And then Lou is not here this morning, but I want to point out specifically that we received a letter from the community just thanking and commending Lou Sands for his work down at Sawyer Point. Lou has done a marvelous job this summer with programming at Sawyer Point, and actually throughout all of our parks. And oftentimes our park staff don't get the recognition for the amount of time and energy and hard work that goes into even a brief event in our parks. But Lou has done an exceptional job, and I just want to make sure that we all are aware that his work is being recognized in the community. So we want to thank Lou. He's not here. I'm sure he's down working at the waterfront, keeping it beautiful for us. But Jenny, if you would, make sure you pass on to Lou our thanks as well for the recognition and the good work that he's done. So with that, we will move to our first agenda item, which is, I'll ask Rama and Bob to come forward and present to us something and tell us about the International Children's Day that you are developing and planning for us in Burnet Woods.
Thank you again. Good morning. Some of you know me, others don't. I'm Mama Historia, and I'm pleased to introduce Bob Harry, the president of Cincinnati, USA Sister Cities Association. We have 9 sister cities, and the mayor might be here in the next few years. And I'd like to tell you that I pitched the idea of a Children's Day celebration in my favorite place in the world, Burnet Woods, to the Sister Cities Association, and they had never considered trying to raise a new generation, a young generation of internationally savvy people. So Bob Herring and the Sister City Association partnered with me last year to present the very first International Children's Day celebration. And this was done, of course, in partnership with our other child-friendly groups, Cincinnati Parks at Trailside Nature Center in Burnet Woods with Michael George and Jennifer Martin, the Clifton Branch Library of the Cincinnati and the Hamilton County Public Library System, and Campaign Education Foundation through the Great Outdoor Week in partnership with Cincinnati Parks. And this and USA Balloonatics, which happens to be my son's balloon company, but that's very children friendly for the most part. So thanks to all of these various partners, we're very excited to host a child-themed event, an internationally child-themed event in Burnet Woods. We're happy to say that not only did we have a successful turnout last year, we're happy to host this year's Story 22 event on Saturday, September 24th. And I turn the floor over to Bob. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity to come and address the Board of Park Commissioners. I just have 3 things I'd like to say. Number 1, thank you. Thank you for taking leadership in this and supporting the Children's International Day in Burnet Woods. And thank you for your staff. The Burnet Woods staff is just absolutely incredible to work with. Very cooperative, very supportive, always there to help out last year and this year. So kudos to the staff of Cincinnati Parks for helping make this event possible. Number 2, I'd like to just make a request. Cincinnati has 9 sister cities, but if you go to the International Park downtown on the riverfront, there are only 7 flags. Mysore, India, and Amman, Jordan are not represented. So my request is that, as Ram indicated, the mayor is considering adding additional sister city partnerships in the future, that we take a look at the plan for International Park to incorporate all of our sister cities, to update basically that entrance plaza there, and also to take a look at ways to make the International Pavilion at the east end of the park perhaps more accessible, or to make it used more often, make it more, I guess, user-friendly, if you will. Parking there is a problem. You can only park on Riverside Drive. There's no lot. And whatever we can do to make that beautiful facility more accessible and used more often. So that's 3 requests. Let's take a look at our vision for international arts, our connection to the international community through the parks. How can we update that and also plan for future expansion? And the third thing is behind the scheme. In addition to being the chair or president of the Cincinnati USA Sister City Association, I'm also the president of Cincinnati Park Ukraine Sister City Partnership. This is very emotional for me because I've been to Hartke 5 times. I have lots of friends there who are dealing with the unmatched. At some point, we're going to rebuild that city. At some point, this war is going to come to an end. At some point, they're going to start rebuilding. And I'd just like to plant the seed to begin thinking about, is there a way that Cincinnati Parks can be part of rebuilding the parks in Hartke? I know we have had an excellent partnership with Leo Joe. I was part of Mayor Mallory's delegation when we went there and installed the replica of the suspension bridge, the replica of the gazebo at Eden Park. What would be possible for the rebuilding of parks in Hartke? Maybe it's just as simple thing as requesting volunteers. We'll go over to Hartke. We'll give you a week, we'll roll up our sleeves, and you tell us what needs to be done. We need to plant flowers, we need to rake leaves, we need whatever. We'll stay in local hotels, we'll eat in local restaurants, we'll infuse money in the local economy to help that get back up and running. Excuse me. We have a 32-year history of a partnership with Hartke. now is the time when they need us more than ever when the sport comes to an end. So maybe we're looking at next summer. I hope no longer than that. And what can we do as the Cincinnati Parks to help them bring their city back to life? So thank you. Let's take a look at our connection to the broader community and as we plan our parks, Friendship Park. Let's plan to see that will be part of the rebuild of our sister city.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
Any questions or comments for Bob or Rama?
So just quickly, I was on that trip as well. Like Chief, the first time I've been out of the country, like internationally across the ocean, and I've already been thinking. In fact, well before I was even thinking about this job, back before we started, I was thinking about that connection, and so I'm glad to hear that Sister City is totally thinking this as well, and that's going to be a really worthy thing and a great connection to make.
Cincinnati Urban Sister Cities is committed to stand with our keep for the long haul.
Absolutely.
So be glad to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob.
And please join us as we celebrate the children of Cincinnati on Saturday, the 24th. And it's in your own Cincinnati Parks.
Absolutely. I had the privilege of going last year when the first time, and there were flags of all the different sister cities, booths set up. Kids were there having a great time in Burnet Woods. So thank you for your work. Thank you for organizing this, and appreciate you coming and talking with us today about it. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Sure, thank you. Next, we have another guest speaker, and I would like to recognize Steve Leeper from 3CDC, our partners downtown.
Thank you for having me. Well, it's tough to follow. I just wanted to, you talked about the staff recognition. Staff recognition, and I can't agree with you more, Jim. Folks in the field, as you well know, we have a very strong online partnership. From Fountain Square to Washington Park to Ziegler Park. And I have to tell you that the parks have never looked better in my opinion. They have never looked better. And some of these spaces have been, Washington Parks now, reopened it in 2012. Of course, we reopened Fountain Square in 2007. Ziegler Park was, I think, 15. And we just opened that little Imagination Alley in early line. But the staff that you have, care and love that they give those green spaces is incredible. And, I always feel that way. I'm out in the neighborhood all the time. I literally walk from my office to the YMCA virtually every day. I walk past Washington Park. I personally acknowledge that staff and what they do. But what's really hit me the other day, it happened because we had a series of visitors. A week ago, we had, I don't know why it happened on the same day, but we had 70 visitors. It's like one of those fly-ins from Salt Lake City. So it's 70 people from Salt Lake City coming to visit Cincinnati, seeing how we do certain things. And we took them on a tour, and we went through Washington Park, Fountain Square. Similarly, the same day we had folks from Cleveland and on a mission trip to see how we were doing certain things. And the person, their comment was, I cannot believe how well these parks are maintained and landscaped, how beautiful they are. And I got to tell you, it's pretty touching. And then we've subsequently been bringing several hotel developers that were interested in doing the new convention center out. Exact same thing. We toured them for the exact same thing. So I felt like I really needed to let you know personally how I feel, how the community, and then the public, just the general public, the comments that they have, and they work so hard. You can just tell that they love what they do. And I'm like you, Jim. I feel like sometimes we don't tell them enough what we think about the work that they do and the partnership that we have. I'm glad we extended it. I think our relationship's never been better. It's reflective on the quality of the space. And The other thing, and the last thing I will mention is, during the pandemic, those spaces were oases, particularly Washington Park, when people slowly but surely started to come out of their homes. And that was a place that they felt safe, they could enjoy, and I just can't thank you enough, so thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to do that today. And we don't as often as we need to take time and thank our staff. I'm sure just as you hear it, I'm sure each of us, when we're in the community, we get those positive feedbacks about just how beautiful our parks look and the dedication of the staff. And it's not us sitting up here, it is the people that we have working out in the parks every day, treating it as if they were their own backyards, and it's great. And I also want to thank you and the great partnership that we have with 3CDC. When you mentioned Washington Ziegler Park, when I continue to say, when we look at Ziegler Park is a model in this country for an urban park system and an urban park. And it's exciting what we're able to do together as an organization with 3CDC in the parks. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your ongoing collaboration with us.
Let's get back to work, thanks.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve. That's always refreshing. And it is kudos to our staff and for all of the work that's done every single day of the week. Okay, with that, we will move into, I know Derek was called downtown. Jenny, are you going to give us an update on HR?
I am, and I'm very excited to tell you, although we don't have any new hires here today, next board meeting, we should have at least 5 or 6 that will be coming online. So they're all in the works. That's why he's at civil service today to get everything approved. But we have made offers to 3 out of our 4 vacant admin tech positions. We have made an offer to a facility maintenance specialist, maintenance crew leader, service crew leader, and I think those are all the offers, but there are 6 positions right now at civil service that are getting approved. So we will be able to bring those individuals, as long as they get approved, to the next board meeting. In addition to that, we have added a co-op for Joel's planning and design team. He started this week. There is another co-op starting next week, and one of those admin techs will be located in his division as well. The other admin techs will be going to Crone and finance to help those areas. So we are at the 20 vacancy position, which is a little bit lower, and we are working through that domino effect that always occurs. So that number doesn't always seem to be going down. I was teasing with Derek, and I mentioned to Jim earlier before this meeting that we may be out of the 20s at the next meeting, but then he reminded me that we also added some positions in the budget. So we might still be right at 20, but that doesn't necessarily reflect that they're working very hard to get everything filled.
What are the most critical openings right now?
The most critical openings we have certainly is in the planning and design field. We have a architect intern and an engineer intern that are getting, well, the architect intern was posted. We need to certainly focus on advertising these positions in a better way. And marketing, because we are not getting a very large supply of applicants applying to these positions. So Derek has a plan to certainly reach out, or he has reached out to UC and other universities to try to get in their graduate program to advertise to those individuals as well, because we are just not getting a sufficient number of applicants to even pull from. But those are our main critical positions at this moment that we're trying to get filled first.
Derek was here earlier, and I think that his energy, it is so refreshing to be around Derek. His energy and his drive, I'm sure, really helps in recruiting people, and so he's doing a good job. So thank you, Jenny. Appreciate the update. Okay, we'll go on to some important business here with approval of minutes. Hopefully you have all had an opportunity to review our minutes from August 18th. I didn't notice in there the comment that that was my birthday. Are there any additions, corrections, modifications to the minutes? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Thank you very much, Tia, as usual. You did an incredible job with the minutes. I really like the upgrade that you've done to the minutes, incorporating some of the information that's presented to us. So look very good. Thank you. Okay, we've got a couple updates, and at this point, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Joel Gross and give you the floor to do some presentations for us. Morning.
Good morning, commissioners. How are you?
Good.
Try to keep these somewhat short this morning, but my first update for you all today is on Daniel Drake Park. It's being brought to you because it was one of the exceptions granted under the 2023 budget of the City of Cincinnati. Planning and design took a deeper dive into that to see what would be the best use of all of that money and how would we most appropriately use those funds. We first referred to the 2021 infrastructure report to see what they listed as the most critical items in there. A lot of what they told us was pavement, accessibility issues, things like that. They didn't consider a whole lot of the underground infrastructure. That wasn't a real focus of their report, but many of the things focused on accessibility and upgrades to some of the existing equipment. So planning and design conducted over the past 2 or 3 weeks, several site visits with different facets of our staff, including the Department of Natural Resources, Operations. Several of our internal folks, the trail folks, were super helpful in showing us and advising us on the most critical things that we ought to include in this list. So our priority concerns consisted of pretty much the following things. While some of the sidewalk was updated in 2021, additional connectivity issues remain. You kind of go down from a parking lot into a sitting and reflection area, and there's no real good way to get back up. It is ended by a set of stairs. The stairs themselves have some railings that are suspect that certainly need brought up to code. The asphalt trail that connects the 2 main parking lots is in disrepair. I'm not sure the historical significance. There is some historical stone on both sides, but we can certainly resurface that to make it much more usable to connect the 2 spaces of the park. Some of the trees along that trail have grown such that the canopy is low and it creates some safety issues in that area. So we're going to clean that stuff up as well. Seating is limited. There's several opportunities to add some reflection areas and picnic areas for families. Those are easy things to do to add to really enhance the park. The northern parking lot that's closest to Red Bank Road is wide open to the sun, and that creates a whole lot of additional maintenance concerns. It speeds up the degradation of the asphalt pavement even. So to add that kind of amenity as a park is something easy that we can do that'll save the life of some of the existing pavement. The pavilion doesn't have electrical or lighting. It has in the past. That's been a concern since I started here. We're certainly going to address that. All of the conduit is in place, but we're going to get somebody to come in and rehabilitate that, add some lighting and things in there to make sure that space is safe. It's heavily used. We've been out there several times. I take my own child out there just to check it out and see how it is used. It can definitely benefit. There's certainly birthday parties every time I've been there, and it gets a whole lot of use. The swing set near the parking lot closer to Red Bank Road is isolated. It's kind of out of place to me because it's only one feature. It's for older children. It doesn't work with the rest of that. So we'll look to enhance that and make it a usable space, whether it's something for older children and that's leads into something that uses that green space next to it, or it's another area for moms to have their kids up by that. We can explore both of those things. The playground existing adjacent to the existing pavilion is near the end of its useful life. It's fully exposed to sun. We're studying all of that and how to shade our playgrounds as we put them back in. We plant trees right next to them so that by the time the shades wear out, you get the natural shading. There's good things and bad things to both of those, and we'll explore that as part of this. And as I mentioned, as a part of the accessibility issues, the existing overload guardrails are not compliant, and we'll replace that as a part of safety upgrades to this. So I kind of mentioned the detriments and some of the things that we're going to do at the same time, but My proposal to use this money in the best and most equitable way is the following main issues. Number one, we'll fix the pavement and accessibility issues and dedicate about $150,000 to those efforts. Some of the things listed in the infrastructure report, I feel, are 10 years out from being a real detriment, but there are places that need to be fixed and addressed to prolong life. Invasive species removal and canopy improvements. There are several large pear trees planted and along some of the parking lots. Our DNR folks are telling me that those are bad and that they spread, and that as it gets into our surrounding forest, that's just going to continue to degrade the domestic species that we have and ultimately lead to some bad things. So we're going to dedicate some real money to making sure that our natural assets are improved as a part of the improvements. Our pavilion improvements will include some electrical, some upgrades to the bathrooms. All of those are already big enough for ADA accessibility, but they need some upgrades to make them really functional. Replace the existing playground and the surfacing around it, add shading. We're going to put a provision in there because it's so exposed to the sun on top of the hill. It's a really, really good place for shading. Additional improvements to the pavilion area, including some better games and more updated things that'll draw families to use that area and utilize it better. And additional amenity improvements, including some dog and accessible drinking fountains and things that need to be upgraded just to make it more usable as we upgrade the space. We also looked at some big picture things outside of this. If we were given more money, or if what were the next things that need to be done, what could be done to even further activate Drake Park. Resurfacing, obviously, the rest of the roads, the things that we're proposing in these improvements will get us through another 10 years without having to do anything major to the pavement. You don't need to spend $500,000 on that right now, but resurfacing of that whole thing should be considered 10 years from now. And that's going to be at least a $300,000 to $350,000 line item to do the whole park. Let's see. And the other thing is the activation of that open lawn near Red Bank Road. It's underutilized from what we hear. It's a 60,000 square foot space. It may be a great place for a new amenity or something that we could add to the community, a skate park, an adult playground, some sort of other amenity to draw people to those areas. So planning and design and looking at the budgets for these, we're allotted $500,000 under the city budget. We are requesting about $600,000 to create a plan to do these top 6 priority items that I list under there. With your permission to use that as a working budget, we'd like to move forward with a couple of quotations and planning exercises to make sure we've got good numbers and everything we're telling you is correct. But that is the rough order of magnitude cost and what I feel we should use, the best use of this money. So I don't know that I'm asking for any sort of action other than just to go ahead and proceed with the plan.
Well, it's open for questions. This is great information. Appreciate the approach that you've taken, going out and your staff really looking at coming up. Questions, comments?
A couple questions. You may have said answered these already, and I was trying to keep up. The 2 playgrounds here, you're going to replace one and not both, is that right?
The other playground, Molly, is just that single set of swings up by the northern playground. It's in good shape, it's just isolated. So as a future activation of that space, we would certainly look to augment that set with some more things to make it more usable. It's not listed under the priorities in this first bit, but replacement of the other playground, which is ending its useful life, and it's fully exposed to sun. The surface of the play surface is beginning to show wear and tear and have trip hazards in it. So that one really needs to be replaced right now.
And then it says here we talked about the different trails. I see the one trail here that's a paved trail.
Yep.
And then there are other trails in here. Go into a little bit more planning on doing on these trails. And then are there any trails that I've never done any hiking here. Are there any
That's a
trails?
great question. I asked that of our DNR folks, Greg and Drew, that had presented to you all a few months ago. They said that, no, that's not very much used through there. They don't have any established trails. And at this time, for the critical path items, the invasive species was much more important to them, the pear trees and getting that stuff. So the degradation wasn't happening. There aren't trails in there to activate. And from what they're telling me, it's a difficult undertaking to make that. It's not that it can't be done in the future, but there aren't any established trails in that space outside of what you see here. The only real trail, if you count the walking path off of the southernmost parking lot, that is a pathway, certainly, but the trail dashed in red on your screen is really the one that we were talking about with the asphalt. It's in bad shape, it's uneven, but it's very, very easily fixed with asphalt overlay.
So you'll replace the asphalt
Yep.
and it will be an accessible trail.
Won't be accessible from an ADA compliance standpoint. It'll be a connectivity trail, certainly not. The accessible feature that we're gonna add, Molly, is up by the pavilion where the black arrow is shown. There's a pretty shallow grade over there that we think we can probably get either with one switchback or very little additional pavement, some sort of actual ADA compliant accessibility to the pavilion. That's what we're after, but the grade, it's not to say it can't be done, but in the current configuration of the start of that trailhead, there's about a 15% slope plus coming out of that northern parking lot towards the pavilion on the asphalt trail. So it exceeds anything that we're allowed to do from a sidewalk standpoint for transportation, to truly call it an accessible path from an ADA compliance standpoint.
So you said, I'm not saying it can't be done, you said it can't be done.
I'm
Can it be done?
In the current configuration is what I meant by that.
Okay, got it.
from-
You have
from-
to reroute the trail.
You have to start the trail at a different place such that it didn't interact with that 15% slope. And that's probably not the way to go when we can probably add 2 or 3 parking spots in this roundabout that are compliant and then actually give you a way to get down. So yes, we're gonna try to give you one accessible path to pavilion, but the existing asphalt trail in its current configuration is not and can't be just by overlay.
Well, I'm glad you thought there's ADA opportunities.
Absolutely. Trying to make all of our features as accessible as possible. Anytime that we have those opportunities, we will. But again, it's a difference between connectivity and accessibility. The accessibility word is the ADA under the Department of Justice. The connectivity is the word that we all try to use to connect all of our features and works. So where we can, we always will try to do both. But sometimes we can't meet under the current trails, the ADA compliance. And we're not bound to it.
Well, I have a couple of questions, just following up on the ADA comment that you made. Is there no ADA accessibility to the pavilion? No,
That is correct.
there is not.
No, ma'am. There's not, there's an access road where, I don't even know if it's rated for vehicular traffic, but the trail road that runs up to the pavilion is still too steep. And it doesn't have, when you do a compliant sidewalk, there's a relief set, so you can go 30 feet at a slope, and then you have to have a flat resting area. So none of that was considered. You see a lot of that in retrofits of houses when they come into a community that doesn't have sidewalks and they re-bench all of your driveways to put that in. It gets a whole lot flatter in that area because then you're bound by those ADA compliant features and limits. So we aren't bound by those when the park was built, but when we add things and upgrade it, we're looking for the spot that we can actually give you that. And we think we found one. We certainly can do it.
I think the plan is very comprehensive. Very well. I understand the rationale, things you're planning to do in the near term and looking at, here's what we do, here's what we would do in the future. What I'm wondering about is, it wasn't clear to me, as you were looking at the application of that money to begin with, did you look across the system? Like, how did you arrive at this part in the place you wanted to spend the money?
Well, under previous administration, a list of about 30 exception projects were identified. That was in the 2022 budget that was identified, and I believe presented to you all in January of 22 this year. That's what goes to city council, from what I understand. They provided money for 3 of those exceptions, one being Inwood, one being Drake, and one being California Woods. California Woods also $500,000 for road restoration. So those are things that our previous predecessors put forth as the most, some of the most high priority projects. And I do not know how the city arrives at which ones of those they fund. But we can certainly justify the 3 that we have. And that's what we try to do, is make the best use of those monies as they were allotted to us.
In addition, moving forward, as we're going to hear in the next report, we're working on a system that will be very open and transparent and will allow the board program that, I don't know that I will steal those thunder. That will allow us, so, as Bill said, that was the previous, approval process, but moving forward, we're gonna be able to see kind of how we grade these things, and it's gonna allow us comprehensively to arrive what are our priorities and how to go down the process.
We just don't have to see how city administration.
That's where I go, that's where I gotta go. Take my sleep bag out of City Hall. Yeah, take my sleep bag out of City Hall and start pushing elbows and.
So I take it you'll be back to us when you've got fixed pricing
Absolutely.
for us to say, go.
Yes, we will solicit the things. This is one that we don't need an overall master plan, other than there are some engineering components that will need. The ADA accessibility will probably reach out for folks that design that every day, have them help us cite that. But it's not a project that we need, a full comprehensive master plan. We can enact a whole lot of these things, with vendor quotes, and compile that ourselves for you. So that's what we're gonna try to do. Any other questions?
Joe, can you be on the additional, the 350,000 on the resurface refurbishment? Are you saying that we don't really need to do that to 2027, or are you saying that if we do this today, then we won't have to do a complete resurfacing in 2027?
There's about $150,000 in my preliminary estimation and walkthrough of detrimental pavement problems, actual failures of the subgrade, things like that are going to cause problems in the short term. If you fix those now for a full depth patch, which we've done in several other parks like Mount Echo even this year, then that extends the life of your pavement many, many years. So the next thing we'll do with that 350 is a full mill and fill, where you're taking the top inch and a half off and putting on a new surface course.
So that 150 is this first item?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I was gonna
that's
say,
the
let's
fixes
do it
such that
all
we
while
can-
we're there, but.
Yeah,
Okay.
the 150 fixes your accessibility issues from a sidewalk standpoint, and it fixes your most problematic areas of your pavement. Perfect. And we get all that sustained, and you come back in 10 years with full overlay, and the rest of the pavement reaches the end of its, when that surface course reaches the end of its life. Perfect.
I'm inclined to give them a go ahead on the 600 target. Any no concerns? Joel, go forward. This is a great way to present it, and I appreciate the straightforward information like that. So please move forward.
Very welcome. We'll be back in touch with you in the next couple months. Work towards pricing. My guess would be this will be a 24 when we get to construction. So there's several things that we're not pricing on right now.
Great.
All right, I believe I'm also next on the agenda.
While you're there, thank you.
This portion is just our planning and design monthly update. So the first half, I tell you what we're working on from an initiative standpoint, the things that we're working on in-house to try to make what we do more efficient. The first thing that I'll talk about is what Jason likes to call, and I love that term, but it is turning into that essentially. Planning and design. I said he called it the brand. Maybe I heard it.
We thought he was referring to you.
It might have been devoted. Yep. So we worked a lot more this month with a focus on ensuring that we had all the 2023 projects identified. We did, all of that is shown. As you see, I printed out an excerpt from our brain, essentially. You're gonna start seeing pivot tables that look a lot more cleaned up, and that's what we're after. Getting to the point where we have enough information to give you that. For this, I wanted to show you all that the green items you see in the project funding lines, those are the projects that comprise the majority of the 2023 budget. You've already voted on all those to accept as a part of the January budget. But I just wanted to share that in this, rendition of this table, that those have been added, they've been funded. We know how to do that now, and we can allot money out of those such that we pretty much know how many of those we can fund for 1 year. Everything that you see in green is something that we're going to try to accomplish in the next 12 months on top of the existing. So adding in the new work, and that's at this point, everything that you see in that table, that comprises our current project list, all of the things that we're talking about. As Jenny mentioned, for Derek, we have a co-op that has started this week. The rest of the Brand Sticker Carol report that you all have been waiting for, his first job is to take the rest of those projects that are listed inside of that report and synthesize them into this format, such that every project that was listed in there can be considered in the same format. So that's what we're working towards the end of the year. We already have the fair and poor at the request of the city manager's office identified such that if any additional funds are available to be captured, we're ready with projects that waiting in the wings for those at this point today. I believe we're meeting on that, and those will be turned in next week at their request. So those things are in the work, and our brain is to the point where we can actually give them good information at a moment's notice, pretty much. So I'm very pleased with the progress, and I want to thank my team for the hard work. Matt DeBona, Chris specifically, Jenny and Craig for their help with that. It's a collaborative effort for sure. Matt's done a phenomenal job leading that. As Jason mentioned,
Joe, will you be adding just dollar figures in here so that we get how much
absolutely.
money we're talking about?
We did. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
We will run a pivot table with any question that you ask us at this point. How do you want it listed? If you only want to see the 2023 funded projects, we can do that. Any active project, we can.
This is such a small snapshot of the work they've done and the data. We're excited to one day bring in Matt and show the GIS component up on a map. You can zoom in and see all of this stuff. It's just absolutely incredible. You get lost. So it's like, it's just huge.
Yeah, and beyond that, as Jason said, we're going to start adding more features to this and to be able to generate more custom reports under a capital improvement plan. So, for example, when was the last time this roof was done? Obviously, it's under construction right now, but 5 years from now, someone may not know that those things were done. So compiling a list of when those things need to be fixed and planning and projecting those costs is called, in my field, an asset management plan. So beyond this capital improvement plan, where we're trying to identify the projects, we're going to get to that level where we know when we have to do things so that you're better informed on when we have to spend money and why. And we can justify deferred maintenance in a timeline so that the city knows why we need this when we need it. That's where we're headed with that.
And does this go down to assets and parks? The genesis of my question is, I remember the discussion earlier about our benches and playground equipment that we're gonna put useful life timing on those.
Absolutely.
So they'll show up and it'll be time to get this one replaced or
Yes, ma'am.
this one addressed.
Absolutely. That is the absolute purpose of that. Yes, there will be an initiative at some point in the next few months where we focus for a week or 2 weeks with Jenny on identifying ages of all of those benches or fountains or Murdoch boxes and all of those things. And those are things we can send our co-ops to do. The field work in-house, that's useful things that helps them get a familiarity with our parks and a great experience while they're here. It helps us generate this data so that Matt can compile it and make it into stuff that we can use for you guys.
Bill, you are, I know I speak for everyone here, always.
What you should expect.
It's amazing.
You should do your job. Thank you. Appreciate that.
A question on
Yes, sir.
project status. I understand what in progress means. What's ongoing and initiated, and how do you define that?
So the in progress are the ones that are actually funded with the funding code. The initiated are ones that we've allotted funding. So we internally have already given that a budget so that we can, so we're not double paying ourselves, So we have, even though it doesn't have a fund that we can track under the city financial system, we can track it in-house so that we're only planning for the money that we actually have. The ongoings are things like maintenance. We know we're gonna do $100,000 in lighting every single year, but we don't know what park it's gonna
So
be.
that's just perpetual.
Yes, perpetual costs ongoing. There's about 20 of those, even including our salaries. We count that because it comes out of the infrastructure rehabilitation budget. You're welcome.
Okay,
Yes,
can
ma'am.
I bring up a specific item?
Anything?
Okay, Smells River Edge, okay. This is part of the study being done to figure out what it's going to cost to put a hard edge
I know the number.
at the river, right?
Yes.
Is that information being gotten to our lobbyists? Because we're going after federal money
Yes,
to take
ma'am.
care of this.
Mhm. I don't know the answer to how it's being conveyed to the lobbyists, but I do know that we meet with the Army Corps of Engineers
Okay.
in the next 7 days, and that we do have at a 15% design level. So KZF was under contract and provided us a 15% design. And their whole goal of that was to show us the stability of the bedrock underneath
Correct.
of that edge. to inform what we need to do from a foundational standpoint. They found good news. The board report said that the bedrock is stable and that all of what you see, Jason and I were actually out there yesterday. Lou told me it's moved 4 feet this year. It's scarred 4 feet. It's actually within 20 feet right now, the sidewalks that were put in above it, next to that wall. But yes, KZF's already provided a 15% level plan and rough order of magnitude cost for what it would cost to hardscape that whole area, which it desperately needs. That's a big, big number. And that's what we're hoping to go to the Army Corps for some matching potential in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So when we were there yesterday, just for much photos, I didn't live in Constance. That's the area of the park that's closest to my house, probably the park that's closest to my house, so I go out my dog all the time. And he loves to try to get down the river. We were down there to see the drop off that's happening. I took a photo where the cliff, like has that grass ends. Joel stood on the rocks and the grass ended at his head. And so that's the magnitude of how we're losing that. And you can see the scarring that's above it and how every time the water gets up into that grass, it pulls. And while we're still 20 or so feet away from that sidewalk, it's clear that if that continues to move back, that Joel-sized cliff is going to be at the sidewalk, and that's what we're going to river. And so we're excited to be during court next week. That's going to guide kind of what they see as their opportunity to help us. We're hoping that they see this as kind of a signature project that they take on and really kind of be a true partner with us. And that would guide kind of what our need is locally. And then absolutely we're looking for every great opportunity. You know, stabilize the rivers is a national priority, state priority, and a systemic priority. So I think you're absolutely right. Once we have kind of our plan forward, we're at 15% design. We know what our key partner, Corps of Engineers, can help us with. We'll be able to go out and figure out how we're going to provide the match and what the opportunities are and bring that money outside as well.
Joel, you were going to tell us about some of the highlights of what you've accomplished this.
So back to Molly's very timely question. The next thing we're going to develop to help inform the priority of these projects, because that's what everyone's asking, what do we do first and how and why? We're going to give you the why first. Why do we do what we do should be defined before we can define the rest of the projects and how we prioritize them. So over the next 6 weeks, hopefully faster than that for a draft, I'm going to do my best to take in the best information I can find from the National Park Service, local prioritizations of how we restore, how we prioritize the restoration and deferred maintenance of the park. From a social perspective, from a safety perspective, from an accessibility and equitable spending perspective, all of these things that encompass the mission of what we do. At least we can give them a number and say, when we score these, you meet all of these criteria for preservation and you get 10 points because of that. We only have the capacity in-house, as all of you know, to do so many projects because we don't have the funds or the people to do all of the things everyone wants us to do. But we can certainly try to do as many as we can and at least show them why these projects are prioritized ahead, whether it be for safety, or any of those reasons. So I'm going to try to bring that to you all for discussion so that we can make sure that what we put out and how we score those things is fair and equitable across the board. And I expect a whole lot of scrutiny for that document, but it's welcomed in-house. So that's what you should see from us, potentially a draft by the October meeting.
And Joel, how do you add it? Well, we should wait till October, but just balancing the preservation and maintenance with keeping it vital and inviting and welcoming.
That's right. Those weights are what I will really need some help with. So the activation portion of that is so important. And I know when I interviewed, like the thing that I remember is you saying, as go the parks, go the city. And I firmly believe in that. So activation of the parks and making sure that everything, we're activating parts of the city that don't have that should be weighted a certain way. But the weight of that, I'll have to rely on all of you to help sort that out. But once we establish that matrix and find that it's fair, hopefully that will help inform what projects should be at the top of our list to do.
Like park renovation. Did the city manager get back to you?
I have the best news ever.
Signed, sealed, and
It's signed,
delivered?
signed and ready to go.
Great.
Excellent.
We're going. Preliminarily, I was allowed to at least inform Bruce that the city manager had signed off on it, and that was yesterday. So they're aware that they've been signed off, and Mike is working towards the next 4 weeks as mobilizing. We're ready to go.
So we will have dirt moving this year.
Yes, sir.
That is great news. Thank you.
You're
we're
welcome.
gonna get that tree moved.
Tree will be moved before spring. If I can absolutely help it. If not, So Derek mentioned that I had 3 new people start, or Jenny mentioned for Derek, I had 3 new folks start. We had Alex start this week. He's working with us about 20 hours a week. He's helping synthesize the Brain Center Carol report. We're happy to have that so that we can get all this stuff in one place for you all finally and talk about all these projects with our arms around them for once. We certainly hope to have one of our other co-ops start on the preservation piece and documenting some of the, many historical drawings we have at the house and getting those digitized, house, and get them digitized such that we can use those across the board. That's what we're gonna have our other intern that's gonna start next week work on. Charmaine Moore also starts as our administrative technician, and I could not be happier to have somebody to help us coordinate some of these projects. So I want to thank Derek again for all his hard work. He's made this a much easier process than it could have been. Like Rocky said, the sense of urgency he put on this and helping us hire some of these people is greatly appreciated, and we needed it. So thanks to
Tell us
Derek.
honestly, how many people do you really?
5 more project managers that know how to run a project by themselves. I can do anything you all throw in front of us.
Several of my notes and whiteboards are out of my office. I have Joel staff in all caps, so that is a priority of mine as well. I love looking at the brain, and I want to be doing more stuff and addressing the stuff with it. So the full speed ahead on getting Joel staff needs. We gotta think of every conceivable way to recruit and sell architects, engineers, project managers. That now's the time to come parks. So.
And with that whole step, we'll be able to get through procurement more quickly.
We got a change order through procurement in less than 24 hours yesterday because we have a relationship with them now and they know what we need and we communicate with them. So yeah, we're starting to break down those barriers as well. That was for Alms Comfort Station, by the way. For an update on that, it's one on my list, but we talked last time about that, maybe a potential emergency project, and it is. We have a designer already working on the water mains in that park. And that's what informed us to know that we have this problem with the sanitary sewer. Those folks have been great to work with. They offered to throw that into their design budget. It's faster than I can do it personally in-house. Steve had reached out to MSD to see if we could do this as an ID bill. That they don't have the capacity to help us, but our current designer has said they can get to it right away. So purchasing got that through for us yesterday one day. They're going to add a design for us, and we'll get that into the same scope as the project that was already in motion and get them all into the same bit and done. So Alms will be back up and running as soon as we can get it there. Let's see. If you all want 2 minutes on our current project focuses, I've already talked about Lytle. International Friendship is to the point where they're doing the rough order of magnitude costing and design approach. Hopefully we can move that as fast as we can as well and try to do some design build features as much as we can. We've already reached out to purchasing with that. There's some issues with that, certainly on the state funding side of things, but we're going to do everything we can to expedite pieces of that to get it moving.
Joel, what is ROM?
Rough order of magnitude. So if I spend 2 hours giving you, if you tell me how much this park costs in 2 hours, I'm going to tell you 200 million. If you give me 2 weeks, I'm going to tell you 193.5. More time that we're given to give you an estimate, the better it gets. But the first one is rough order of magnitude.
So you're saying you start high.
Start high. Yes, the rough order of magnitude cost is the one that has the most uncertainty. Smails River's Edge, we mentioned, we have a meeting next week. We're preparing for that right now. Parks DNR headquarters is one that's a hot button issue for all of us. The interior design of that is almost complete. We're reviewing plans right now with the designer. We hope to meet next week with the DNR staff in to go through anything else. And we've already alerted Megan under the third-party administrator agreement that the city has now that we would like to pursue that as one of their projects, hopefully to streamline that such that the disposition of them having to leave Reading is as slight as possible. We don't know that we're going to be able to get it done by April, but we'll move every piece that we can as fast as we can up to and including just packaging the interior of that building as a project such that we have a place for people to sit. We can always move around things outside as they're going. So we're trying to streamline that one as much as possible. Fairview Park, the borings were completed during this month. We're awaiting the boring report. That will inform what we need to do. That is a significant project to fix those overlooks that are a little bit sliding, moving down the hill. We should have an update on the severity of that next month. The Owl's Nest Pavilion, that one is moving forward. KZF has concepts in place, at least to look at how we're gonna try to engage the public with that. We are waiting for Jason to come on board with that and certainly want him to be engaged with that process as well. So we'll get him up to speed as soon as he's got 5 minutes to take a breath in the first couple weeks, and we'll move forward with community engagement in the next month. Those are all the current design projects that I have going on. For construction, the administration building roof that you're sitting in, that one should be done for the most part this week, with trim being finished up next week. The Bellevue Park security and rock removal, I want to specifically say thank you to Bruce and their crew. I could not be happier with the work that they're doing out there. It's fenced perfectly. We got a gentleman up there working safely. Everybody's he's scratching off every bit of the loose stone as they go across everything that they can reach, making that as absolutely safe as possible. They took at least 2 loads of stone to the Deal Road site that we can use for future restoration projects, even steps and we're armoring of our banks and streams. So we're saving all that rock from the Bellevue formation that we're taking out. Bruce said they will probably be wrapped up pretty much this week with the big rock removal, but it's going to be a couple more weeks before they get everything restored. I couldn't be happier with that. So thank you to them for doing a great job. We appreciate it. What's that?
Can you get the basketball nets put on the hoops? There are always people playing on this basketball court. And they don't.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a small kid.
Is that us, Jenny? We can get it.
Joseph, we'll do it.
Jenny will get it. If it's me or not, Molly, we will get it.
That's how long this brain list is. This far, or 1 or 2.
There's those little items that were too low.
And that's exactly right. When you have a playground amenity that you can't get a swing for, we're gonna keep that stuff in attic stock, so we have those things. And the inventory is that asset management plan. It's already being done, the storekeepers are already working on that stuff, but we're hoping to get that so we know what we need and have a good stock of all these things. The Ezra Charles statue is the hottest button project that we have, and I certainly know that. The foundation is poured. The concrete around the plaza was poured this week. They poured the outer plaza on Monday, so all the concrete is going really, really well. Stone is on its way from Vermont right now, and the statue is set and ready to go in the week of the 26th. So as of this moment, everything is on schedule for the festival. And I will absolutely make sure personally that that one is as far along as it can be. So everything's going well with that. Trailside Nature Center entrance, the concrete work is complete. We still need 2 trees to go back in. One of those we're going to procure from the woods, one that's fallen already, to fix those historic trellises that were outside. We'll get those fixed in the next month, hopefully. And the Rapid Run Playground, the touch-up that they had to do on the Gurley Road Trail was done this week and looks awesome. So thanks to Alita for that as well. They did a great job. Looks excellent. For our October project focus, I'm still working on California Woods. I hope to get you guys a 2 or 3 page summary of what we hope to do on that one as well, similar to Drake. It's going to be a stream restoration project, very similar to what we're doing, but the roads are the major focus of the funding so far. In Wood Park, we're working towards securing some folks to get us some master planning quotes, and we hope to report back on that next month as well. And the last project I have to mention is that the Tom Jones Commons project will be finished up this month. Seeding and topsoil is in the yard, and we coordinated with Bruce that they plan to start on the 26th to get that buttoned up and seeded, everything buttoned up for the winter. That is the end of my report, commissioners.
That's
Any
all.
questions for me?
Joel, I want to echo what Molly said. I mean, if there's one thing that this commission has been passionate about is doing what needs to be done in our parks and just having a overall vision of what is going on and what needs to be done. And what you have done in the short period of time that you've been here has taken us light years ahead of where we were from the standpoint of visibility and reporting, and it's just incredible. And you know, when you look at this, the exciting thing, you didn't mention it, but we had grand opening of a pickleball court and replaced the playground at Washington Park. So the the beautiful, fun things that you've done in addition to all the nuts and bolts attention to maintenance and backlog that we have. It's perfect.
Appreciate that. Thank you all. Thank you for giving me a good team.
We're still working on that, right?
We are, yeah.
Any other questions for Joel? Joel, just keep on keeping on. This is incredible work. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
So now we'll go to our next item. And Craig, are you going to present RecTrack to us?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I do want to point out, Trish Thompson, our supervising accountant, she's the one that headed this project, and she's under the weather today, so she's with us via Zoom if there's any questions. Patricia did a great job collaborating with operations, ETS, and purchasing. I find RecTrack as a proposal for us. A little background, first joined here. We did have multiple systems, and those systems were working for the Mission Act Chrome, the online shelter reservations, the what else? There's another one, it's a big one. The programming fees for the Explore Nature. We're going through the years, definitely the emissions and Chrome, we've ran into quite a bit of issues with the POS system there. So when individuals come and buy their purchase of tickets, the system was failing, and they came to a head last Butterfly Show, not this past one, Butterfly Show in 2021. So after that Butterfly Show, Patricia went down the path identifying what is a good solution for the whole organization, so we don't have 3 different systems where revenues coming in and constantly running into the problem of the system microphone failing, and also online ticket sales became a huge driver of revenue for Chrome Observatory due to the pandemic, and we want to maintain that. So Patricia went through, we had multiple options. We continued doing the administrative waivers to utilize some of those systems, as well as going through the RFP process. One of the issues we run into with the RFP process is we need to involve ETS in those, because not all systems out there, even if they win the bid, would be approved by ETS. An example of that would be is, if you recall, about a year and a half ago, I presented OnBase to you. We do not have OnBase right now because it was rejected by ETS. So by going this path, we're going down the path of least resistance, and it provides us an excellent system so we can go ahead and receive our revenue within one system instead of 3 systems. So RecTrack is currently used by CRC. It's a wonderful system. It's a great system that Park Systems and Rec Systems use throughout the country. The system, yes,
POS, what's that?
a point of sale.
Point of sale. I read too much social media.
I don't know what that means.
Well,
Yes.
then if you want to switch that word, that's what our system was over there.
We're switching one POS for another POS.
And this is a system used by CRC. It's a wonderful system. It's one of the nicest systems in the market. And Patricia went ahead and met with ETS operations, the CEV team, and provided the presentations, so the RecTrack as well. And it's considered one of those Cadillac systems where we were kind of looking at more of like a Malibu, like a little sedan. But this system, even though it is more expensive, will provide a lot of analytics that we currently do not have. Following our Chrome membership, the Explore Nature program, really we can gather data about our customers through this system and be able to utilize that data to help drive communication to them about upcoming events and upcoming new activities occurring. So the system itself it has an annual cost of $79,000. Currently, we spend $138,000 with these multiple systems. Of the $138,000, $90,000 alone is due to Cincy Ticket. We get charged a transaction fee of $2.50 per ticket. It's not per transaction, it's per ticket. To offset that, we do charge the customer upfront for that additional transactional fee. With RecTrack, we will no longer be charging the customers that full $250. We will put in a transactional fee in there so it does offset that additional cost for RecTrack. So I do want to point that out, even though it's saying technically it is a savings of around $58,000 annually, but if you back out that transaction fee that we're forcing on our customers, we're gonna make it more of a wash unless we want to have that full $58,000 saving.
So I take it all these tickets are gonna be on your phone now, just like your football tickets and all that.
Yeah, everything will be online. It'll be going through the RecTrack system. Yes.
So no printed tickets.
They could print, yes, they absolutely could print.
No printed tickets.
Yeah, well, they could print if they want. Just like when you go to a concert, you can sometimes print them out and just scan them. That's kind of the old way of doing it, yes, but you can still print, yes. Yeah, I haven't put in a ticket for a while.
What's
so.
RecTrack's,
They do not have a fee per ticket. That would be something that we would determine. Moving
we
from,
eliminate that $2.50 per ticket charge for RecTrack.
yes, we do.
We still have the bank charge, I'm assuming, the
Yes.
transactional cost, but not that $2.50 per ticket.
So
Yeah, that's
you have a credit card.
Yeah,
fee
just
that you
either way.
pay one way or the other, but you don't have that surcharge.
Yeah, the 250 goes away. Yeah, and absolutely, Commissioner is correct. We will still have the credit card fees being applied. Now with this, if we would move forward with this purchase, we would advocate using Fund 332 and 326. That is where the majority of the revenue does come in for admissions as well as shelter reservation and explore nature program. So we would want to utilize those two funds to pay for the system annually. The upfront cost is $26,845. That is for the just the upfront cost for the training and the purchasing of the system itself.
You know, I would like, Steve, you're very involved with RecTrack. Being your representative on CRC board, I can tell you that RecTrack, introducing that into the system has been night and day. Visibility for CRC, just capturing data, efficiency instead of having paper everywhere, capturing data through the system. Steve, what can you tell us a little bit about CRC's history with RecTrack?
Well, it's relatively short as well. I think it's like last 3 years. Everything was establishing a relationship with our communities. I think this goes out and takes as well. It just really brought everything together, operating those 23 different recreation centers and 20 different pools, and not having consistency in how we track revenues, how we're coordinating the conversation with our users. It really just brought everything together and it made everything so it seems that night and day data collection, you can use the data in a proper way to generate more sales as well, because you're again establishing a deeper relationship. Steve, how was the rollout when they actually switched over? Was that fairly smooth, or that's always a concern when you go from one system to another, that there aren't those little pieces or I forgot about this, or we were using an internal system that we built in house that was pretty simple. So you can use this RecTrack system is obviously a little bit more complex. It was a little bit of a learning curve, but I will say that the training that provided through RecTrack was great. And then it was key to have one particular staff member to follow the CRC that really oversaw the training, internal training and coordination with RecTrack. If that relationship was as strong as it was in CRC, so subject matter expert that internally they go to. Yeah, they take into questions. Yes, you're gonna have a couple of high-end users because folks in the field are gonna have questions. Daily breakdowns on down break the staff, and someone's gonna have to be leading internally. So
Did you run parallel for a while with the old system and the new system? So that
Yes, we have 23 or so 30 different stores that we opened up. It took a while to implement it. So, we didn't shut everything down unless we have. Great product, just having someone in charge of it. Staff. So some time.
For the timing of it, we're looking at implementation in February of 2023, right before, so it will be rolled out, just like Steve said, in more portions. So the first portion will be the programming for the Explore Nature Camp. Then the second portion will be the butterfly show admissions, and that will be in March, usually the start of March, middle of March 2023. But the programming for Explore Nature Camps will be in late February or March.
So you plan to roll and start it. Do you have any projection on when you will have the system?
Full implementation should be a year from now.
And I'm glad you mentioned the training piece, because when I was looking at the numbers and the upfront costs, I was wondering if training was included in that. It is. And what was surprising to me is even with the upfront cost, the year one cost is still below what we were paying for.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. So that's,
Was a big surprise.
yeah. It's mainly the transaction fees. We get raked over the pools with the expenditure camps and the schemes.
Any other questions for Craig? And it's a modular system, so there's what CRC has found is as you get something developed, if there's another piece of their software that would benefit, and we're not as transactional as what CRC is, but there's other things that could be modularly added on in the future. If not, we have a recommendation from staff to approve moving forward with the direct check implementation. Do I have a motion? And is there a second?
second,
Any further questions on the motion to approve this? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Craig, and thanks for continuing to move us forward.
Trying to, this was led by Patricia and Deb, all the things.
And Patricia, we see you're online, so thank you for your work on this. And hopefully it makes your life easier after it's a little harder at first. Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Now you're up again, please.
Yes. So we have two grants today. The first grant we have is for $3,320. This is for the Mirror Lake project. This is for the restoration of the mosaic tiles along the accessibility walkway in Eden Park. The second one is $25,000. It's a green space grant. This is for the helping out with the planters along the Fort Washington Way, the planter beds. The total amount is $28,320. Staff asked that the commissioners allow us to apply and accept those dollars from the Parks Foundation.
I know we have some visitors here that are interested in the Mirror Lake project. Was there anything you wanted to add to this discussion, or maybe explain a little bit more about what you're doing here?
This has been an advocate and supporter of the Mirror Lake project. Sure, okay, great. We talk all the time. So, thanks, Craig. So this shore was part of the original campaign in 1999 to do the beautiful mural at the bottom of Mirror Lake. And there's a historic mosaic tiles built into the wall and the ground.
We called it the gateway, to come down from Henkel Garden, and part of the, as you all were talking about, connectivity in the parks. And that was part of our original project, was to connect all of the institutions, Art Museum, Playhouse, Season Good, and the lake itself, so that we would have beautiful places where people could walk. And so we wanted to enhance Mirror Lake and add elements to it that would be much more attractive than just having the lake there. So as a team, there were about 5 or 6 of us that got together in the 1990s and drew up a plan, and the park board, that's actually, this is the first time I've been in here since then. It was like in 1997 or something. We were doing all of this presentation to the commissioners, and they loved the project, and we eventually started working on it in 1999, and it was completed for the millennium. And we called ourselves the Millennium Project as a result of that time period anyway. And it was a gift to the city, and it involved Waterworks and Park Board. Waterworks, of course, owns the reservoir. Park Board then maintains it and owns the area along the edges of the reservoir.
So Mirror Lake is considered a reservoir.
It is a reservoir. The reservoir is underneath.
That's the cap.
Yeah.
The cap, I
I
think,
never
was,
really quite understood.
the cap was put on in the early 1950s, I believe. And before that, it was an open reservoir. But they had so many issues with people dumping things into the reservoir, and they decided to cap it over. And so what you see now, the lake, is the cap on top of the reservoir.
If I can say too, Liz has been a great advocate asking Waterworks to advance capital money so that they can restore the bottom of Mirror Lake, clean it off and chip off and sandblast the paint. So that was a big feat.
Yeah, we did. Waterworks is now committed to doing all of the prep work, so that, which is a huge amount of money, it's like over $200,000. They're gonna go in, sandblast the bottom of the lake to remove all the previous paintings. There's a number of them, and they're starting to chip off now. And then they're gonna go in and repair all the joints and all the places around the wall of the reservoir where there's been the concrete is starting to degrade. And a lot of it's just because it needs major kind of restoration to prevent water from getting into that and cracking the concrete and so on. And so we hope to begin in the spring. Waterworks will start their work, and then when they're finished doing the prep work, then Artworks is going to come in with their apprentices and repaint the bottom of the lake. And so that by fall, that project should be finished, we hope. And the grant that was asked for today was for the little gateway that goes down to the lake. And that was in fine shape. It's lasted like 20 some years now, until just recently, water has gone underneath the mosaics and loosened some of them, and people have been carrying them away. And now it's to the point where people are starting to dig them up so they can carry them away. And yesterday we were down there measuring it, doing some other kind of calculations on how many towers we have and how it's all going to fit back together again. And we hope to restore it, because I know some of the donors that had given to the original project were concerned that it was getting in really bad shape.
Yeah.
And so by this fall, we hope to have that completed.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for this work on this, Liz. And Liz also is involved heavily with parks, and her friends from the St. James and the Liberty Garden, where you're raising money every year for parks, for maintaining Liberty Garden and Eden Park. So thank you for all that you do for parks.
You don't have to make it 25 years. Come back.
You see how
The rings the same.
only the faces have changed to protect me, right? Any other questions regarding these two grants from our colleagues at the Parks Foundation? If not, do I have a motion to accept? So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to the foundation and to our friends that keep us up to speed with Eden Park. Thank you. We'll now move to Hamilton County Resource Impact Grant. Jenny?
Yeah, so Hamilton County Resource, which is the solid waste district, is offering a grant to help fund programs to reduce landfill waste. And Parks is working with the Office of Environment and Sustainability to help apply for this grant if it is approved. And the sole purpose for this is to conduct a feasibility study to focus more on our green waste and how we can certainly properly remove that or reuse that really in our biochar system that was approved, I guess, earlier this year or maybe last year. And so what they will be looking for is identifying how much green waste we actually have within our system and looking at what we would need in order to fill that gap in order to make the biochar system successful. Also, it will help us create our standard operating procedures in order to make sure that we are doing it properly and being able to remove the green waste and also maybe splitting the green waste into good green waste for the biochar, bad green waste. I also call it bad green waste in the sense of not able to enter in the biochar and what we can do to either repurpose, reuse, or recycle the both green waste in that sense.
Jenny, can you
Yes.
give a couple examples of what kind of green waste would go this current?
Sure. So all around our system right now, we have little pockets of any brush that we remove, plant materials, shrubs, anything. And we right now have pockets of that green waste, but sometimes it is too cumbersome. So we are right now actually putting that into a dumpster system and then it is taken out to Rumpke. Not all of it, but some of it. So if there are piles that are getting too large, because we are only to a very small amount that we are permitted to have within our system. So if we are removing large amounts of green waste throughout, we have to then dispose of that into our Hamilton County landfills. And so to be able to take that and either put that at Deal Road or however that, that's what the feasibility study will be in order to store that properly, in order to get it into this biochar system, then we are able to recycle and reuse our green waste that we're removing every day.
Do you think there's any opportunity to create a green compost area in some of the larger parks? I know Washington Park isn't, but in some of these parks that have a lot of land area, is there an opportunity for that?
I think this grant is not due until October 19th. So certainly we can add that to the feasibility study to allow them to understand if that is something that we are able to do.
There's cost of hauling too.
Yes.
So to the extent we can recycle our waste on site and then use it for planting beds and so.
Yes.
That would be saving money. But potential.
Sure. I will certainly discuss that with Natural Resources as well and allow them to implement that into this grant request.
How are we doing on the biochar project?
That's a great question. And I don't know if I have that answer for you at this moment.
So, Crystal's out of the country right now, I'm sure, although it's only my 7th day or 8th day, but I'm sure he'll review vacation. But my understanding is that contract is currently in issue with the law department and with, I should say, like the memorandum of understanding with the grantor. And so that's in issue right now. I expect it will be out there pretty quickly after Crystal gets back. Something that I discussed with the city manager in my first meeting there, and the administration's all full speed ahead on. So I would expect us to start moving forward pretty soon, as we head into later this year.
So another piece of this grant itself, sorry, did you have a question?
I was just, I'm wondering, currently, do you have a number on the percentage of green waste that ends up in?
We do not. That is one reason why we are excited about this feasibility study so that we can really get a handle on what that number is. Because they are certainly pockets in throughout our entire system. No one has ever really looked at it as a comprehensive, what are we really doing throughout our park system and how can we manage that better? So That is part of this study that we're trying to be able to grab these numbers.
Okay, we'll get that from the feasibility study.
Yes.
And then if we get approval on dollar chart, we'll know what percentage that we can convert there. And then we can look at how can we drive that number. So what I'm getting to is, what is a goal we can say to people? Because I hear you that all these conservation, energy goals about by this year, by 20 whatever, we are going to be reusing 100% of the waste material.
Sure.
So what is that number and how do we get that public so that we can get people back to that exciting potential of that habitat?
So I don't have that number for you today, but certainly this is what the Office of Environment and Sustainability and Natural Resources with Crystal is certainly trying to establish with this, even writing this grant itself. So they'll have a better handle on that than I will at this moment. And since it's not due until October 19th, I think they can certainly report back to you in October for
For
that.
clarity,
Yes.
the grant itself, the $100,000 grant, is for doing the deep dive study of exactly what we're saying. So
Sure.
by doing that, and by having this grant to be able to do this study, we will then be able to see, here's where we are, here is where we are, and put goals into how we can reduce that. So that's great.
Sure. And also, in addition to that, it will also identify where we may need to go out to other agencies if we are not producing enough green waste ourselves, or the communities like you're mentioning, to see how we can filter that in order to make the biochar system successful as well. So it's kind of doing a dual. Not only are we trying to clean up our own system, but also help feed into the biochar.
So I understand that the zoo is one site, so I don't want to draw any comparisons.
Sure.
But they really have been a leader in composting and using and really creating little waste from everything that is produced from the zoo, which is the
Yes.
So I know that they would be excited to provide some needs there.
Sure. And I know Crystal has been in contact with many individuals there, so I'm sure she's taking very good notes on that.
One of the things I was surprised where she talks about pockets of this green waste for like collection sites for our teams that are storing it. One of the things I was really fascinated to learn is that there are limits on how big those piles get. Which at first it's like, wait, we have giant parks, why couldn't we have a giant pile? Again, in order to prevent it from going landfill, it seems to make sense. And then you start to think that composting limits are probably placed so that like my neighbor doesn't have just a giant full backyard of compost. And so I think that one of the cool things about this study is that we can start to set some of these goals, and we can kind of have the people studying and look at what are the ways around that, are there exemptions, are there ways that we can do kind of permanent, larger scale, permitted facilities to do composting, where we make sure that we're not creating smell or affecting park users or our neighbors. It's just really exciting to try to start to set those goals like this zoo has, and then start to kind of chase them. So, oh, wait, you're the most environmentally sustainable. What Parks is doing, we're trying to catch up or even see, right? And I'm sure they would revel in that race to be the most environmentally sustainable, because everybody likes to be pushed. So,
That's great. Exciting.
I think Joe wanted to.
I just had another thing to add about what Crystal's doing and what we're doing next to inform this project. Crystal is actually in Sweden right now. And part of her vacation is she's watching master arborists compete for like master status in the country. But much of that, I think, is the birthplace of biochar. So she's doing a whole lot of research while she's over there to like inform how we're going to do this. In my previous life, I designed an 18-acre landfill cell in Iowa as a part of my engineering background. The system that they run, the county and the city, runs one of the biggest compost facilities in the nation. And it's super successful. They actually take every bit of green waste from every hole, and they call it a yardage. It's a big green version of your Rumpke brown dumpster. Everybody gets one, they put it all in huge rows, they turn it. So Crystal and I are actually going to see the folks that I work with out there for 6 or 7 years and meet them to get even further educated on how they deal with their green waste and how they segregate it as a part to inform this master plan, this study. So we're going out there in mid-October before
for the grants. She's actually in Stockholm, which was the first city where biochar was implemented on the original for towns. Since that, it expanded to 7 other cities, which is.
I'm so inspired by you all.
I have the same feeling. Yeah.
I really am.
Yeah.
And Crystal's geeking out over there on her vacation.
Tree or something.
Love it.
So, Jenny, worst case scenario, we said we have the 25% minimum match, it's well worth it, I believe, and what we're already doing and some of the initiatives that you have. We have a recommendation from the staff to approve the application and commit to this. Are there any further questions? If not, we have a motion. Go ahead.
We don't do any mulching or chipping or anything like that in the system.
We do, yes, we do that as well.
And these piles of compost, is it mostly, is it leafy green, is it woody? Or what is the composition?
I think it's a mixture. I mean, it's certainly shrubs that have been either pulled out or pruned. It is some plant material, and I think, you know, those may need to be separated in my world, because I'm not the expert in this field. But it is, you know, it is, there are branches, shrubs, plant material, anything that we are either removing or pruning, and leaves where they're storing them either on site, or if our piles are getting too large, then we have to then put them in a dumpster to be removed.
Do we have a motion?
So
And do we have a second? Motion and second to approve the recommendation of staff to apply for the grant. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Jenny, thank you.
Great,
This is exciting stuff. This is Green Cincinnati. This is Green Parks. Thank you. Yeah. With that, Tia, if you could move this, we are going to move and give our new director an opportunity. The floor is yours, Jason.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you to the board. I've told you this many times in person and to others, but this is just kind of the thrill of a lifetime, and certainly not a chair I thought I would be sitting in, but one that I'm just thrilled to take on, and I kind of understand the gravity of what you guys have assigned to me. But you've also, like, I walk into a great team, right? We just saw, you know, time after time, the parks staff, the Cincinnati Parks are trying to find ways to lead on all of these various issues and do things that are best in class. And so to get to come into a team like this and just kind of support and help and try to get them the resources they need, provide the kind of help solve problems when they arise, it's just gonna be an honor. And I'm really excited. Everybody I've met so far, worked with, it's just been a thrill to work with. You know, we've got some challenges ahead of us and some puzzles to figure out, but ultimately to get to play in parks every day and play with my neighbors and citizens and visitors in parks is just going to be a thrill. And so I look forward to working with all of you, the team. Steve's been great to have kind of a mentor in place to help me along and help me navigate these early days. It's been wonderful to work with Steve, and then just the whole staff's been great. So thank you so much. I don't have a lot of comments. I'm excited about the record time for the meeting. I'm sure there will be more to talk about in the future, but I think the team's done a great job of kind of getting up to speed on where we're at. And I've just been doing a ton of listening, both in meetings with commissioners and just meeting with people throughout the community to try to figure out, you know, what's the best way forward. You know, just thrilled. So thank you so much.
Jason, I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier, but we are thrilled to have you as the leader of Cincinnati Parks. And from my perspective, and I think I speak for all my colleagues here, we are here to support and to help you in this role. We are handing to you the keys. You are the leader, and we really appreciate in the short period of time that you've been here, the way you've jumped in. You've been in action. Steve mentioned the Cleveland group that was here. You spoke as if you had been in this chair for months, if not years. So thank you for what you're doing. And again, from our standpoint and board, we commit to you. We're here to support you and to help you in any way that you need it.
We have a lot of fun.
And have a lot of fun.
Yep.
With that, I'll open it up to any of the commissioners that have topics that they would like to bring up, discuss for the good of the organization.
I don't have a topic to bring up. I just want to echo a couple of things. One, Jim, your opening comment about the minutes. I missed the last meeting. And Tia knows that I'm a stickler on minutes. And what I appreciated was having missed that meeting and reading the minutes, they were very good. And I appreciate the additional graphics that you were including, because I didn't have to go back to the packet and try to figure out what goes with what. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I just want to say too, and echo on commending the staff. I'm just feeling really good today about what I've heard. When we were talking about our new director and what we were looking for, a lot of what we heard from the staff was about innovation. That's kind of what I've been hearing today. Just some very good forward thinking, out of the box thinking, new category, new levels of how we can present ourselves as a park. Not ignoring at all the fundamentals, but how do we elevate that? So delivering on those fundamentals becomes easier and more efficient. So I just want to say thank you for all you do and for your dedication. And I said earlier, one of the things I appreciated about coming here is hearing staff and hearing in their voices and their comments and their demeanor that this is not just a job. This is like a mission for the people here. And I appreciate that. It's encouraging and inspiring. So thank you for all you do.
Anyone else?
I just want to say ditto.
Great. I have one question for you, Rock. You might know the answer to this. Will Explore Nature host the holiday camps this year? Is that in the plan?
Yes.
I think Thanksgiving maybe, and then over the kind of Christmas break.
Yeah, they've got a whole series of fall events going on in Eastern. So check out the website to see what those are. And then we'll have holiday camps this week.
Got it. I will just say about our camps, they're the best camps in the city. And having experienced many camps, there are really good ones and there are really bad ones, and there are a whole lot that fall in between. And Cincinnati Parks does the absolute best job with the camps. And there's such a service to parents who need to go to work during these holiday breaks, and it gives a really enriching experience for kids. So they're just great.
Yeah, it's not the trail side, it's not absolutely.
It really is.
My only comment, I want to highlight something Joel's doing, and he mentioned using his co-ops, but digitization of our paper documents. I am really excited about what you're doing, and leading that to the future generations by digitizing it and keeping it, preserving it. And I'm excited also. I want to continue that process. And I love that after we get all of your house architectural and design work digitized, I would love to do the same thing at Bettman for all of our historic records, that we put those in the same type of format that we create. We've got such a rich history in Cincinnati Parks, and it seems like every day we're learning things. Just what Liz was telling us about the history of some of the Eden Park Mirror Lake history. To have that available and to be able to disseminate that information is just going to be key. So thank you for taking that up, and look forward to doing that with some of our other historical records as well. Anything else that we have for the good of the order? Again, thank you for the staff that's here and that listening today, and for all the hard work that you're doing. And again, thank you, Jason, for being there. And we look forward to our next meeting in October. And with that,